Hello everyone and welcome back to Odds on Serie A. On today's show we'll be previewing every game on Matchday 24 with betting tips and predictions on every single game. If you enjoy the video, please make sure you like the video, subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell to make sure you don't miss any of our daily betting video uploads. And remember, you can win a £10 free bet from Novibet simply by leaving a comment in the comment section below. And now, let's get on with the show. So it's Matchday 24 in Serie A and Inter have taken control of the title race. With me to preview every game is the iconic Danny Fisichella. Welcome, Danny.
Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very excited to see what happens in Italy this weekend. We start with Torino at home to Sassuolo on Friday night. Sassuolo 17th. They've moved 5 points clear of the relegation zone with that win over Cagliari last weekend. It was a huge result. They'd suffered one defeat in 11, but they've only actually drawn 8 of those 11 games. But they've got the worst home record in the league. They're the only side without a win. If you look at Sassuolo, they're 8th. All their recent games in recent weeks have been very tight. They've all ended sort of 1-1 or 2-1 across all the last 6 games. However, as we look at this game, there's news that this one might not actually go ahead.
Yeah, exactly, because there's been an outbreak of COVID-19 in the Torino camp. On Tuesday, they had to suspend the training. Apparently, there are around 7 players who tested positive. Between them is the captain, Belotti, Bremer, who scored the winner at the weekend, Singo, Baselli. So we're talking about starters for Torino. I believe the game is going to be postponed. There is no really reasons to risk, because both Torino and Sassuolo are outside of the European competition and domestic competition. So these games can be easily being played in one of the days when the Champions League is on or the Europa League is on without risking. And actually, then Torino have a midweek game next week in Rome against Lazio. I think they will want to postpone that as well. Funnily enough, in the reverse fixtures against Lazio, it was Lazio who had COVID positive players, but then they played that game anyway and they won it, and there was a little bit of polemic. So, I don't think this is going to happen. Should that happen, obviously because of the absentees of Torino, in this case Sassuolo are favorite, not because they are doing great at the moment. They're a bit stuttering up front. They are unbeaten in the last 2 away games, so I would go for a Sassuolo win, 2.92, but probably that's not going to be in your betting slip at all.
Yeah, probably not going to happen at all, as Danny says there. Moving into Saturday's action, this one will be going ahead. Spezia at home to Parma. Spezia have been anything but a pushover in the league this season. They've claimed some pretty decent scalps against some good opposition, highlighted by that 2-0 win over Milan. They beat Napoli, Sassuolo earlier in the season. Parma, they're 19th, just 2 wins all season, 2 points from their last 11 games, and they're 6 points from safety. Spezia at 2.52 to win this one. Try and tell me why that's not a good bet, please.
Well, it's difficult with Spezia because they've only won 2 in the last month, and at home they only collected 9 points so far. So they've been better when traveling rather than playing at home. And they come on the back of a very heavy defeat in Florence. Perhaps they didn't deserve to lose 3-0 at the moment, but because the goal came all in the second half, so they're a little bit up and down. However, they get back the full squad, so probably they're gonna be a start again for Zola, who was so important in the first part of the championship, and they play the second worst defense away, Parma, who also are the worst attack. They were very close to win against Udinese, but they crumbled. Sometimes I think there is the fear of winning, not just the fear of losing, that can they can make you mistake. Parma are without Bani, without Brugman. They still haven't been able to brought in Pelé, so Pelé hasn't played, obviously hasn't scored much. Difficult one to call. I will go maybe for the home team to score first, which is 1.91, to be a little bit cautious.
Okay, Spezia first goal scorer there. The next game, Bologna versus Lazio, the Beppe Signori derby, of course. Bologna 12th, one home win in 6 in the league, and that was against Parma. They've been relatively uninspiring this season, I've got to say. There's a few distinguishing features of their campaign I can really find. They haven't beaten Lazio in 14 attempts, looking back through the past few years. Lazio, of course, they arrive on the back of a horrible performance in midweek in Europe, losing 4-1 to Bayern at the Olimpico. The battle for the top 4 is a real genuine one. It's getting pretty hot between Roma, Lazio, Juve, Atalanta, all for those spots in the Champions League qualification. They've won 7 of their last 8, only losing to Inter. Do you fancy Lazio to bounce back here?
I'm not sure about it. Well, Lazio will be relieved because they will not be under the same pressure as they were with Bayern, especially they will not face the same pace up front as they did with Bayern. I mean, they were demolished, and that's the confirmation that sometimes when we look at the Champions League, there are really 2 competitions. There are the competition for 3 or 4 teams that are actually gonna win it, and there is the competition for the others. Well, Lazio belong obviously to the others, but with no disrespect, I think they've done very well so far, and they are 1 point behind Roma. Roma plays Milan on Sunday, so it's a big chance for Lazio. However, after playing in Champions League games this season, they have mixed results. 3 wins, 1 defeat, 1 draw, 2 defeats. So, coming on the back of a midweek game is not always easy. They score more goals away, 20, than what they score at home. I think they should score more overall. They play a Bologna team that they are unbeaten on 3, as you said, but in Sassuolo, actually, they approached the game very well. Then the red card changed the complexion. So, I was left with a good impression. However, at home, they are not very good. They are very mid-table at home, only 2 clean sheets kept at the Dallara. I think it's a hard to call. Lazio gonna make changes because of fatigue. Bologna are not a high scoring team. Maybe let's go for an under 2.5, and that pays 2.15.
Okay, the outrights for that one: Bologna 3.75, a draw is 3.76, and Lazio are the favourites at 2. But moving to the next game, we're looking at Verona at home to Juve. Hellas have made the Bentegodi a mini fortress in recent weeks. 6 wins from 11 at home, including 3 wins in a row there. Juve third, they've got a game in hand over the top 2. They really need to win here to be able to close the gap to their Milan rivals above them. They've been a bit susceptible in recent weeks to slip-ups, especially to Napoli and Napoli, and of course Porto in Europe. Losing 3 of their last 5 away games. Obviously that away form can't continue. For me, it's going to be a real shock if Juve don't win this one. Odds of 1.6 clearly reflect that.
Juve is a favorite, but let's remember that last year Verona beat Juventus in these fixtures. They beat them 3-1 in January, and I think Verona are disappointed for the way they let the 2 points slip at Marassi against Genoa. They took the lead twice. They had massive chances with the new signing Lasagna, who couldn't score in 2 occasions. And I think the problem with Verona sometimes is they create a lot, but they don't convert enough. That's why they brought in Lasagna from Udinese, hoping to add to their scoring tally. Obviously, they got players like Zaccagni, who has already scored 5, Di Marco, the fullback, scored 3, Barak is proving to be really useful, but sometimes, to be the full package, you really need someone to score the simple goal, the stupid goal, the poacher's goal. And they face a Juventus team that obviously they dismissed Crotone very easily, but that's pretty much a given. This day, they are 6th in the away tables, Juventus. Maybe because they draw too many games at the beginning, but also, as you mentioned, the 2 defeats recently, Inter and Napoli. The good advantage for Juve is that this is going to be the first week of full rest, probably since the beginning of the season. So they could concentrate fully on this game. Pirlo needs to still to understand who's the best partner for Ronaldo, because both Morata and Kulusevski have got dips in form. But more worryingly for Pirlo is the list of absentees. Dybala will be out at least for another couple of weeks, and then they miss Bonucci, they miss Chiellini, they miss Danilo for this game. So it's already 3 out of 4 defenders. Cuadrado has been the best player, and Artur the creative midfielder. So I think Juventus could have problems here, especially against a very compact Verona. I fancy the Asian handicap +1 for Verona. So if you think Verona gonna draw against them, go for the Asian handicap +1. You will win. You will double your money. If you think Juventus are gonna win by 1 goal margin, go for the +1. At least you will not lose your money.
Brilliant. That's some great insight there, and certainly highlighting those that injury list for Juve could be a real challenge as we head into Saturday. Looking into Sunday's games now, we start with Sampdoria at home to Atalanta. Sampdoria 10th in the table, 13 points off Europe, 15 points off the bottom three. So really they're in no man's land here for the remainder of the season. Atalanta are 5th. They face Real Madrid tonight as we record in Bergamo. It'll be very interesting to see how they do in that game before we look at Sunday's match there. Sampdoria have got 1 clean sheet since October, and we all know all about Atalanta's firepower. I'm looking at Asian handicap -1 for Atalanta at 2. What do you like the look of?
I think, as we mentioned, we start looking at the home team. Sampdoria, they're going to be very unpredictable from now on because they have achieved basically salvation with 30 points. They need a 3-4 points maximum, I think, and that will be on the bag. We know they're going to be dangerous if they play with 2 up front, especially if it's Quagliarella and Keita together, but sometimes Ranieri prefers to play with a 4-5-1 so that they lose a little bit of threat up front. They won 4 of the last 6 home games, but they always conceded at home. Atalanta, they seem to have hit form in the right moment. They have Muriel, who's the striker who scored most goals in this calendar year, already 8 in Italy. However, coming up on the back of a Champions League fixtures this year, 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 defeats. And actually, in the reverse fixtures, they lost against Sampdoria 3-1 on the back of a Champions League game. So that could show that sometimes maybe Atalanta squad is a bit short, especially when they have to replace the man up front. As I said many times, I think perhaps the additions of Miranchuk and others, they haven't quite supplied what they needed to make sure that the second lines are enough. They provide enough depth for Gasperini. Difficult one to predict, but there is a nice double chance of 1.x for Sampdoria. 242, which it's a high odd, but you have to take into account that Atalanta will be playing Real Madrid on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game in the Champions League to look forward to, and heading into the next game. It is Crotone against Cagliari, both sides probably facing relegation to the B, almost certainly. Crotone, bottom 20th, 8 points from safety, 5 defeats in a row, scoring just twice. It's going to be a hell of a turnaround for them to be able to survive this and come back. Cagliari, obviously last weekend's result was a huge blow to their safety, to their survival ambitions against Torino. They were a place above them, and now there's a 5-point gap there. João Pedro really does need to find his shooting boots. 1 goal in 8 is actually not helping their cause. Both sides hugely out of form. Is there any way they can both lose?
No, no, obviously not, but they might both lose by drawing, which is, completely useless result. Cagliari are the team that have dropped more points compared to last season. They have a new man on the bench. They sacked Di Francesco up until 3 weeks ago. They extended his contract until 2023. 2 days ago, he was sacked. They brought in Leonardo Semplici. He was the manager of Spal. They got them promoted 3-4 years ago. He kept them in Serie A for 2 years. So obviously, he's a man that knows how to do the job. Will it be enough? We don't know. Probably he's going to switch to a 3-5-2, which suits better the way Cagliari plays. He likes to play with a big striker up front. So let's see if Simeone, El Cholito, the son of the Atletico Madrid manager, will benefit from that. They need obviously to score more. They only scored 1 goal in the last 7, whereas Crotone sometimes often find the net, especially when they play at home, but they leak too many goals. Let's remember, Crotone so far have beaten 3 teams at home: Benevento, Parma and Spezia. So we're talking about teams that are in their league, and obviously Cagliari is in their league, so a home win could be in the card. But because these teams' defense are far from perfect, let's go for an over 2.5 goals, which is slightly more conservative, and that pays 1.92.
That's interesting. Crotone, if you did fancy to back them, you can get them at 3.3 best odds on Oddspedia. The next game is between the league title, Alex, Inter Milan and Genoa. Genoa, they're first, they're the leaders. They took a huge step towards the Scudetto last weekend with that 3-0 win over their rivals Milan. The Lukaku, Lautaro, Perisic trident is working really well. They look superb breaking as a team. Lovely goal in that, the second goal in that Milan derby. Genoa, 4 wins from 7. Drawing the other 3. They've got odds of 19 to win at the San Siro, which may tempt some here, but they've just got 2 wins all season. Inter at 1.2 for the win. Obviously, clearly too low for us to bet on. So how do we find value in this game, Danny?
Well, I think the odds for Genoa, let's put it this way, they're very, very high. Everyone expects Inter to just roll them over. It's not going to be like that. As you mentioned, the partnership up front is working. Perisic looks like a new man. Credit to Antonio Conte. Especially Inter now is playing with 2 midfielders who can play the ball, with Brozovic and Eriksen. Eriksen that was about to join PSG in January. Now he's more at the center of the project, and you can tell that Inter's play flows much, much more. Add to that Hakimi, Barella, the defense who hasn't conceded only once in the last 6, and you understand why Inter deserve to be on top. Plus, against Milan, they won absolutely every single battle on the pitch, physically and technically. However, there were 5 minutes in the derby in the second half where Andanovic had to pull 3 massive saves that could have brought back the game to 1-1. So sometimes Inter has lapses of concentration. Now, I'm not going to say that Genoa are probably going to be on the front foot and score first on this game, but if we look at the last 7 games of Genoa, 5 have been clean sheets. Since Ballardini, the new manager, took over, they would have been 4th in the table. So they would be a Champions League team since he took over. And he started rebuilding the team from the defense. All is based on the defense. Genoa at the moment concedes perhaps more shots to the opposition, but less dangerous shots than they were doing before. Obviously, shots that were leading to goals. So, if you remember the way Inter played against Udinese a few weeks ago, they struggled, they did a 0-0, and Udinese plays a very similar system to Genoa, 5-3-2, very compact on the middle, so it's not gonna be easy for Inter to break through the striker partnership Lukaku and Lautaro. Perhaps they can have a little bit more joy on the flanks, as Verona did against Genoa at the weekend. So, we could go for goals under 3, 2.11, so that would be my first tip. So if they score 3 goals, you get your money back. Or there is one very interesting Asian handicap for Genoa, +2, and that pays 2. That means Genoa could lose by 2 goals, you get your money back. They could lose by 1 goal and you win your bet, because the Asian handicap obviously eliminates the chance of a draw. So let's go for that one. Genoa Asian handicap +2, and that doubles your money.
I really like that bet. I think the odds on Genoa here are massive. I think there's certainly value there in the +2 for the away side. Look at the next game, Udinese against Fiorentina. I think goals won't be flowing in this game. 2 sides with near identical records. Only difference is that La Viola have conceded 2 more goals this season. Udinese, they're 13th, just 1 place above their opponents this weekend. They don't score enough goals, just 9 home goals all season. Second fewest to Parma, who've only got 5 in Serie A. Fiorentina 14th, terrible away from home. They're 19th in the standings for their away record. 1 win away from Florence all season, only Crotone are worse. So Udinese bad at home, Fiorentina bad away. I'm looking at goals. Under 1.5 goals is 3. What do you like?
I think this is a good call, absolutely. Also because we need to remember that Udinese will be without Pereira and Ziegler, the 2 key midfielder players that provide a lot of dynamism, and they don't score enough. They brought in Fernando Llorente. He hasn't, I think, he scored 1, but he hasn't had the impact that they desire. The best man is De Paul, but he plays as a deep line in midfield. He cannot do everything in the team. However, Udinese are unbeaten in the last 2 at home, and as we said before, they kept the lead on Inter at 0-0. Strangely, they conceded 5 in the last 2 games, which is quite unusual for their defense. Good reaction in Parma to get the 2-2 at the end. Fiorentina, they are a bit in turmoil. It's very difficult to understand what kind of team they're gonna be. In the second half, they won against Spezia. All the goals scored in the second half, also because Castrovilli came on. I think he could be one of the player more important for them, especially because they're still missing Ribéry, and they still haven't found who's the best partner for Vlahovic. You know, the 21-year-old Serbian is doing great, 9 goals scored so far, so nothing to say. But with Kouamé only scoring 2 this season, and he had most of the starts, and Esserik is just coming from the injury, and he scored against Spezia, who's gonna be the partner for Vlahovic? It could be a low-scoring game, but maybe both could be in the score sheet, both teams in the score sheet, 195, both to score. Okay, yeah, not expecting much in that game. As we look at the penultimate game on Matchday 24, it's Napoli at home to Benevento. Napoli's form has got to be questioned by the away side here. They're actually one of the hardest sides, I think, to tip in Europe. Their last 6 games in all competitions, in fact in Serie A, have been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. So, but also around that form, they've been beaten by Atalanta in the Coppa Italia and Granada in the Europa League. Benevento, they're 15th. They're sat between 10th and 15th, actually literally all season. 7th is now for Napoli. That's the lowest point they've been at all season. Napoli have got odds of 1.45, but I can't really trust that. Can you? Especially because they'll come on the back of a European game against Granada. We still don't know what's going to happen. But, you know, if they get knocked out by Granada on Thursday, it's a massive disappointment for Napoli. And that adds a lot of pressure on Gattuso, who the president, De Laurentiis, says is safe until we are in touch with the Champions League spots. And, you know, obviously Napoli got a game in hand, which they have to go to Turin and play against Juventus. So it's not easy. But, you know, a lot of pressure, and sometimes Gattuso seems not able to manage the mounting pressure on the environment. The problem with Napoli lies in 2 departments. First of all, they got a lot of injuries. Manolas is out, Lozano is out, probably Osimhen, he had a concussion in the game against Atalanta, is out, Petagna is out, maybe Mertens will be back, so they're missing a lot of players up there. And also the problem is that they start the games very slow, they don't take control until the second half, or maybe when they concede the first goal. Obviously, at home is a different story because they have the second best defense in the Serie A, only 10 goals conceded, and the play now at Benevento side, I think they lost a little bit of the mojo, a little bit of the spark. At the beginning of the season, they're scoring more, they're creating more chances. Now they seem to become a little bit more conservative, which is not a bad thing, because I think if you concede too many goals in Serie A, no matter how you score, you probably end up in trouble. And Benevento were courageous against Roma, 0-0 with 10 men in the last 25 minutes, heroic defense. They didn't concede a single shot on target to Roma, who finished with 4 strikers, but in the very last minute they almost conceded a penalty that then was turned over by VAR because it was an offside. So, you know, those silly mistakes sometimes can cost you in such a difficult season. Look, the most obvious things to say would be Napoli to score in both halves, which doubles your money. But because there is a European game for Napoli, and because the issue they're having, if you go for an Asian handicap of +1 for Benevento, you go 241, and you have a good chance of not only winning if he ends in a draw, which would be a good result, but also get your money back if it's just a very small margin victory for Napoli, which is possible.
Yep, Pippo Inzaghi needs to get back on the training ground and show them how to finish some of those chances. We look into the final game of Matchday 24, it's Roma at home to Milan. It's a great game. Roma 4th, they've got the best home record in the division with 9 wins from 12 and 0 defeats. They've scored 10 in the last 3 games at home. Obviously a great record, over 3 per game. Milan, second the table, obviously, have actually lost 3 of their last 5 games. Not exactly title winning form, is it? It was interesting to note that 10 of their 45 goals this season have been through the penalties. Actually, usually in recent years, it's Lazio who are the penalty kings. A defeat here would drop them into the clutches of the likes of Juve, and then, you know, they might start worrying about top 4. You know, they're outsiders here in this game at 3.2 with the bookmakers. They've got the best away record in the league. What are your thoughts on those odds?
Milan obviously cannot rest on their laurels, even if they still receive a lot of praise for where they are now compared to where they were last year. And, we have to say, Pioli has done an amazing job. But you pointed out, they have been poor in the last month. I think it's also because of fatigue. They started the Europa League campaign very early in September with the first knockout rounds. And I must say also the January signings, Meite, Mandzukic and Tomori, they haven't really added much. We haven't seen making them a difference. Maybe this could be the game, a chance for Tomori, who's been the best of the three, to probably start, also because the two Milan centre-backs in the derby, they were heavily punished by Lukaku and Lautaro Martinez. The issue with Rome is that they never won a big game so far in the season. They've been great against the small teams, but not very good against the big teams. So this is a test for Fonseca's men to see if they've shown that improvement and that maturity. They will have issues at the back without Smalling and Ibanez, so who's going to mark Ibra? So obviously both to score is possible, but the odds are not very high. I think there's going to be a Roma win. This one is 246, which is a very good odds for the home side.
Looking like more trouble for Milan there with another defeat against Roma. That could be the end of their title challenge, I think, perhaps. That's every game previewed on Matchday 24 in Italy's top flight. But of course, there's one last thing we need to do, Danny. It's the Serie A ACCA. Please take it away.
Okay, 5 games as always. So Verona and Juventus both to score. Double chance 1x for Sampdoria against Atalanta. Asian handicap of 0 for Cagliari in their trip to Crotone. A win for Napoli at home, and an Asian handicap of 0 for Roma, slightly bit more conservative, obviously against Milan. And the total odds is 20.16.
Remember, this is coming from the man who brought us a 40 odds ACCA winner a couple of weeks ago. I've got my fingers crossed for you, Danny. Thank you very much for your time today. Great insight, and I can feel some more winners again.
Okay, thank you very much. Speak soon. Ciao, ciao.
So as we can see, it's a very important week for Milan in the fight for the title in Italy. And if you've enjoyed the show, please make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell to make sure you don't miss any of our daily video betting uploads. You can now also listen to this show as a podcast. And remember, if you want to win that £10 free bet from Novibet, simply leave a comment in the comment section below. We'll be back next week for much more odds on Serie A.